All right, all right, all right. Tonight we have Brother Ed Williams, Dr. Ed Williams. And this is Dr. Ed Williams versus Mark. We're going to break down the injustice that we have been facing as residents from Mark and our local government. So before we get into that, matter of fact, go ahead, Brother Ed, will you go ahead and introduce yourself? I'm going to cut the mute. I'm going to go ahead.
Yes, I'm glad to be on your show and answer and talk about transportation issues here in the metropolitan area. I grew up here in Atlanta, in downtown Atlanta, and I've been living in DeKalb County for over 20 years. So I'm quite familiar with the issues regarding traffic and the transportation and MARTA. And tonight, I want to talk about, or this evening, I want to talk about some of the issues I've been working on related to MARTA and the lawsuit that I have against MARTA in reference to the transit services and the sales tax that is being levied to pay for the services.
Okay. And thank you so much for taking the time out to do this live stream. But even more so, thank you so much for the fight. You know, you've been going strong. I mean, independently, going strong, doing your homework. I mean, taking on all kind of the MARTA trying to, put lawsuits against you, and you still fighting and still kicking, independently. So thank you so much for your service.
I'm just carrying on the work that people that came before us have done in the past. It's been over 240 years of American history. And, people before myself and others, they fought the impossible fight. And so I'm just carrying on that tradition, and nobody can threaten me or scare me to give up the fight. So I'm going to hang in there and fight for the people and do what's wrong.
There you go. We had that in common. We had that every time I get tired, every time I'm broke on zero. That's what my energy comes from, the ancestors. I think about, what they went through. I said, Don Lee, you ain't going through nothing compared to what the ancestors went through. So I just keep on, with the fight, with the movement. All right, now what I want to do, I want to play a small clip of you speaking at MARTA before the board, and then we'll get into some questions and answering some Q&A after we look at the video. Is that okay?
Sounds great.
All right.
Jurisdictions. Thank you. Whew. Thank you. Well received. Thank you. Dr. Ed Williams from the Concerned Citizens for Effective Government.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Ed Williams. I have not spoken to the board in over 2 years since COVID-19 started, but I want to put a face with a name. I'm the person behind the lawsuit against MARTA, and right now I'm kind of disheartened the fact that MARTA is suing me for legal fees when I'm exercising my First Amendment right to petition my government. If you all were actually standing in my shoes, you would not want to be sued by your own government for exercising your First Amendment right to petition your government. That's the most important right we have as citizens of the United States. I take great offense at MARTA suing me for exercising our constitutional right. And that not only is a U.S. constitutional right, it is a Georgia constitutional right to petition the government. Now, let me say two things about my lawsuit. In 1971, we passed a referendum. The citizens, I was 7 years old then, but the citizens 50 years ago passed a referendum. That referendum was supposed to end last year. It was never intended. In fact, in the Georgia Constitution, no contract can be more than 50 years. It is never intended for a government to enslave its people more than 50 years. Without it coming back to its citizens. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not trying to dissolve MARTA. I don't want to get rid of MARTA. I'm just saying, Marta, you need to respect your citizens. Fulton and DeKalb County come back to us and ask us for a vote and what we want to have done. We did not seek to have a diverse board like you all are here, for you all to deny us our rights. This is what you all are doing. You all are denying the citizens their right to be heard and to vote. That is not what the people in the 60s and the 50s marched for. And so I'm asking you to stop hollering at night from suing me for legal fees and for you all to hold a referendum for the people to vote on a new contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Brother, let me start off by asking you a question. You talked about the 1971 Marta Act. Could you explain that? What is the 1971 Marta Act?
Yes, Brother Lee. In 1971, as I mentioned in my comments, actually I was 7 years old. I'm old enough to know that I was not old enough to vote at that time. But I think I was in probably the first or second grade. That was a referendum. Marta was started and actually started its services in 1971. A lot of people don't know that. It was created by an act of the General Assembly in 1964, but it didn't actually start its services as a transit system called MARTA until 1971 when a referendum was held and voted on by the people of DeKalb County and Fulton County. Actually, it was voted on by also Gwinnett and Cobb County and Clayton County, but none of those other counties passed the referendum. Only Fulton County and DeKalb County passed the referendum in 1971. From 1971 until 2014, DeKalb and Fulton counties were the only two counties paying for MARTA. Now, 2014, Clayton County passed a referendum to join MARTA. So almost for 48 years, Fulton and DeKalb County has been paying for the services of MARTA. And so I'm passionate about this issue because DeKalb and Fulton County citizens, including the city of Atlanta, has been paying for MARTA services, and we're being treated like stepchildren compared to the other counties.
True. And I'm a MARTA rider. I depend on MARTA. That's my sole transportation. And when I tell you it's so many different issues that we face as MARTA riders, from the restroom, the restroom access to safety issues for the seniors. I'm more worried about the seniors than myself when I ride the trains, and the lack of security on the trains. But it's a lot of issues that we face, even from the routes. Even when they came back from COVID, before COVID, and when they came back from, or when the buses were started, because they took the buses for a while and cut down, the scheduling of the buses. But when they brought the buses back, it was just like we didn't have the buses, because when we on the schedule, it may say, hey, a bus is coming in the next 30 minutes. It may be another hour and a half for a bus show up. So yes, a lot of issues that we've been dealing with for us to be paying MARTA.
Yeah, and I actually had a lawsuit filed against MARTA regarding the bus routes and the COVID-19. Now, granted, that was the first time we've had a pandemic in almost 100 years. So COVID-19 was a serious issue. However, MARTA at that time did not follow the law. It delegated and relegated its authority. The MARTA board gave its authority to the CEO to allow him to terminate the bus routes.
So you said that without the public engagement.
Right. And the MARTA Act specifically says that the MARTA board is the one who has that authority to change routes. And before they do it, they must have public hearings. They did none of that. And they kept they changed the bus routes or ended the bus routes, I think over 70 bus routes for 12 months.
True.
And I complained about that and filed a lawsuit about in reference to that. And that lawsuit got all the way to the Georgia Court of Appeals. And by the time before it was able to be heard, MARTA decided to reinstate the routes, because they probably knew that my case had some legitimate merit, but they didn't want to be lost. They didn't want to lose on the merits of the case, so they reinstated the voucher.
Now this was based on. Now this was not to cut you off, but this was based on the 1971 Marta Act, right?
Yes, the Marta Act covers all the Marta period from 1971 up to now, but it was based on the contract that we have that we voted on in 1971. And the contract says the Marta must follow the Marta Act, and the Marta board must follow the Marta Act as far as deciding and delivering services to the residents of DeKalb and Fulton County. And it's what they've done is basically relegated or delegated their authority. The board has to the CEO. That's not the role of the CEO. The board is the one who's supposed to be making decisions, policy decisions, and decisions about services after they hear from the public. The CEO job is to execute the policies that the board decides. Okay. But they've changed it around to where the CEO is almost telling the board what to do.
And that's not the proper procedure according to the Marta Act.
No, it's not proper. Actually, in the beginning, the CEO of Marta was actually only called a general manager. They've changed it from general manager / CEO, making the general manager appear to be the chief executive of Marta, in which he or she acts in that capacity. But the board is the highest authority of the Marta transit system, and the board decides, hires and fires the CEO, and the board decides the policies of Marta. But that's changed. The CEO almost basically tells the board what to do, and the board just rubber stamps whatever the CEO tells them.
That's a crying shame, and they've been getting away with this for a while. And just thinking about this is because a majority of us, as Fulton County and DeKalb County residents, don't know the Marta Act. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't know anything about the Marta Act.
Yes, the Marta Act is the law that was written by the Georgia General Assembly that really outlines and details all the things that the Marta Transit Authority can and cannot do, and how it is supposed to operate. It's called the Marta Act, and it was actually passed in 1965. Our service contract was voted on by the residents in 1971. Now, the big issue I have with the lawsuit currently pending in the Court of Appeals is that contract that was signed in 1971 was only supposed to last for 50 years, which was supposed to end last year, August 31st, 2021. That would have been 50 years from the time that it was adopted. But for some reason, the commissioners from Fulton County and DeKalb County and Clayton County voted in the 15th Amendment to the contract to extend the services to 2057. But my lawsuit says they cannot do that because a contract cannot be extended without a referendum because it has a sales tax embedded in the contract. You cannot levy a sales tax without the people voting to consent to the taxation. And that's clearly stated in the Marta Act.
Okay. Now, something else too that you mentioned too, you said that they voted, or they decided to extend this what was this referendum all the way to, what you say, 2057.
2057.
But you also stated that it's only supposed to last for 50 years, right?
Yes. And so from 1971 to 2021 would have been 50 years. Okay. But what they've argued is that because they extended it in 2019, it's no longer a 50-year extension anymore. Well, the issue is, in which I argue, the same contract continues from 1971 until now. It's the same contract because the citizens didn't consent to the extension. So you just amended the current contract, but the commissioners of Fulton and DeKalb County amended the current contract. But a new contract, or the current contract cannot be extended without the consent of the voters because it has a sales tax levied embedded to the contract, and the sales tax cannot be extended by the vote of the commission.
Okay. Okay. And that's what we need to get at, that education and that fact to the people. That's what we need. So we can fight it.
No sales tax in the state of Georgia can be extended by a county commission or a city council. It has to be voted on by the people.
And they got away with this. Or they getting
Well,
away?
they're getting away with it, but I'm filed a lawsuit to stop it because it's unconstitutional.
So let's go into how they have came at you with a lawsuit. What are their grounds for the lawsuit that they have presented against you?
Well, they claim that my lawsuit is frivolous.
Oh.
Meaning that I have no legal claim to tell them that they can't continue to levy the sales tax. When they have not, they only cited a particular lawsuit that was filed in 1980, where Cartersville City extended the contract where it only had two parties. But that contract did not have a sales tax connected to it. So the city and the electric company could extend the contract without citizens voting on it, because the citizens in that particular contract never voted on the original contract, and it did not have a sales tax connected to it. Compare that to the Marta contract, which had an original contract the citizen voted for, and it has a sales tax embedded in it, which requires a referendum. You can't compare the two. But that's what Marta is doing, saying, well, because this city was able to sign off and extend their contract, then we should be able to do the same thing. You're comparing apples and oranges.
True. So what would you say is the next step, or what? Let me ask you this: How do you think that us being residents of DeKalb County and Fulton County, how should we be involved? What should we do?
Well, it's an education process that needs to take place. One of the reasons you bring up a good question and an interesting point. Why we have a sales tax paying for the Marta transit system in the first place is a good place to start off. The reason we have a sales tax to pay for Marta is that in 1968 and in 1970 there was a whole back and forth between the state government, the General Assembly, and at the time Jimmy Carter was the governor of Georgia, and the state did not want to have to pay for Marta. It refused. They said they didn't want to have anything to do with it. It didn't believe that the estimated cost that they had given proposal about Marta back in 1970 and 71 was accurate. And they were right. The numbers were not accurate. But that's why and then they proposed to do property taxes to pay for Marta. The citizens, they knew, would not vote for Marta with the property tax. So they then came up with, okay, we'll do a sales tax. And they proposed to do a sales tax, and then they had to also consider, we'll guarantee you for 15 years, or I think it was 10 or 15 years, that the fare would stay 15 cents. So they had to do a lot of negotiating just to get Marta to have for the General Assembly to allow Marta to be on the ballot. Because most of the residents did not believe the numbers that the commission was giving them to try to sell Marta at that time. And in actuality, a lot of the information that they did present was inaccurate. The cost of Marta has cost a lot more than they estimated in the beginning. The state has never contributed to Marta, and right now Fulton and DeKalb County has been paying for Marta for over 50 years, and we're being particularly DeKalb County is being shafted, because if it wasn't for DeKalb County, Marta would not exist. DeKalb County senators was the one who was carrying the water for Marta at the time that the referendum passed. In fact, more voters in DeKalb voted for Marta than in Fulton County.
No, see,
people don't know.
Now let me ask you this: What was Sam Massell's role in that?
At the time, It was, and a lot of this information, because I was very young at the time. I was 7 years old. I had to go back to and the reason I know this information, I went to the archives, the Georgia archives, that have the AJC, Atlanta Journal and Constitution newspapers, and they keep it off in Clayton County somewhere. I went out there and actually pulled up the microfilm. Mm-hmm. AJC newspaper that talked about the articles that they wrote about Marta at that time, and to get the what was going on, I understanding the politics that was going on at the time, and the mayor had to work with the General Assembly. The General Assembly had the power because the 1964 local constitutional amendment gave the power to the General Assembly to create Marta. Okay. It didn't give it to Fulton County. It did not give it to DeKalb County. It gave it to the General Assembly. And so in order for the General Assembly to allow DeKalb County or Fulton County to do certain things, they had to work with the senators and the House members of the General Assembly and the governor, because otherwise the General Assembly and the governor would veto anything they proposed. And so there was a negotiating back and forth. And I think, if I recall, Sam Michelle was also participated in it. Jimmy Carter, who was the governor at the time, and some other stakeholders were also involved in it. I don't remember all the players.
See, that's what like you said, going back to the archives, going to the articles I read, they praised Sam Michelle for starting Marta. And people today still praise him for starting Marta. But what you're saying is, if it wasn't for those DeKalb County commissioners,
it wasn't the commissioners. That there was the senators and the representatives that represented DeKalb County in the General Assembly.
Okay, there you go. Okay, the congressmen. Okay.
Not the congress members, the representatives, the senators, and for the General Assembly, they had representatives in the General Assembly. This is a state. The state had to create a Marta.
Okay, so the senators and the legislators, just the senators are the ones who represent DeKalb County, are the one who pushed for Marta the most.
Right, and they were more, because North Fulton really didn't have at that time. North Fulton was not as populated as it is now. It was City of Atlanta that had the majority of the population, and what people don't realize, they actually had a referendum in 1968 that failed. In 1968, it was a property tax that was in the referendum that was supposed to pay for Marta. That failed. They came back in 1971, but they also, what they did in 71 was they substituted the property tax for a sales tax. But they also, what's important that people don't realize, in 68, City of Atlanta was voted separately from the Fulton County. And that created a problem because the majority of the population was in City of Atlanta, as opposed to, in Fulton County, as opposed to DeKalb County. So what they did was they said this has to be a county-wide vote for DeKalb and Fulton County. You cannot separate the City of Atlanta, otherwise you're going to create a problem. Because otherwise DeKalb and Fulton County don't have enough residents, and their residents may vote, if we break it up that way, will outnumber the people in City of Atlanta. So they split, part of City of Atlanta goes into DeKalb County.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about east side.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. So what they did was that part of City of Atlanta that goes into DeKalb County had to vote in DeKalb County. Okay. The part of City of Atlanta that's in Fulton County had to vote with Fulton County. Okay. And that's how they counted the vote. They didn't split up City of Atlanta in 71 as they did in 68. Because they needed those votes to be in the county-wide to get the county support to make the system work. Otherwise, the sales tax is levied county-wide. But you have to read the Marta Act, because the way they also gave power to the City of Atlanta, because the City of Atlanta is actually not a party to the contract. It's the counties and not the city. Oh, it's very interesting. People don't know that.
You know, you brought up a very interesting point because I'm gonna tell you what's so crazy about that. Because what we see here in Atlanta is MARTA always coming down to city council to do their evaluations.
Well, what they've done, MARTA has contracts with the city of Atlanta, but the 1971 contract was done at the county level.
So they have to do that. That's a part of the agreement because they have to follow up with the money that they'll take our money, our sales tax dollars. They have to do that.
Right, because the city of Atlanta still pays, the residents of the city of Atlanta still pay sales taxes, but they count that money as a Fulton County tax.
There you go. I got you now. So the biggest thing,
it gets confusing, but they did it in a way that the average citizen won't even understand what's going on, and it's designed that way.
That's why I said the biggest thing is for the knowledge of and for everyone to get involved with that MARTA Act to start out, because
so City of Atlanta residents are now paying one of the highest sales taxes in the whole state because of MARTA. Seriously. They added so you're all paying the 1 cent sales tax from 1971, but you're also paying that additional half cent. And then you all have, so I think you also voted on the T-Splosh or some other splosh that they was getting ready to propose. And so you all, City of Atlanta residents are paying the highest property taxes in the whole state. Now compare that to Cobb County and Gwinnett County. Both their sales taxes is 6%. City of Atlanta, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is 8% or 8 point something percent.
Yeah.
It's the highest in the state. And so that makes a difference in where you buy stuff and how much it costs to buy for gas and food and all this other stuff.
True. I'm glad you told me that. I didn't know that. I'm glad you said that.
One of the big concerns or issues with that is that when people buy cars and big ticket items, they go to Cobb and Gwinnett County because their sales taxes are cheap.
Which is smart. That's right.
You want to save a couple $100.
That's right. That's financially smart. Yeah.
And so those companies that sell those merchandise and stuff like that, they move and locate in Fulton County. In Gwinnett and Cobb County because they know they have lower sales taxes, and the people who go there to buy this stuff in those counties will benefit more as opposed to having those businesses located in the Cobb and Fulton County. So it hurts us as far as economically when we have higher sales tax. And people don't take that into consideration. They look at MARTA being a job generator and a benefit, and it does. But the problem is this: the state does not contribute any financial assistance to MARTA on behalf of the residents. But it benefits, the whole state benefits for having MARTA provide transportation for all the major events that we have.
True.
So, the state, after 50 years, should be contributing some money towards MARTA, but it does not.
I'm glad you brought that point up too. And then, yeah, that's something to fight on. That's something that we need to look into and need to fight on that. Yeah.
In fact, if you look at other transit systems in the other parts of the country, it's unusual for the state not to contribute. But that's how our system is set up here in Georgia. And it comes back to the politics and racial situation that was around back in 1971, and it still exists.
Still to this day. Yeah, still to this day.
In fact, they just created another agency called ATL that is separate from MARTA because the other surrounding counties are part of the ATL but are not part of MARTA. And it has to do with not only race but economics and where they want the state controls the ATL but doesn't want to have anything to do with MARTA. But the state has 3 representatives on the MARTA board. So
the ATL transit system is not MARTA? That has nothing to do with MARTA?
It includes MARTA as one of its so-called transit clients. Each of its 13 counties are part of the ATL. And any county that has a transit system, the state has represents or controls the money, federal money that goes to those agencies. So technically, they are independent, separate. The ATL board has no jurisdiction over MARTA, but they still ATL still receives the federal money, and then they from the federal government, and then they allocate the money out to the different agencies. So, and ATL was just created in I believe it was 2019 or 2020.
2019, yeah. And they voted for it on 2019, I believe.
So it's still in its infancy, but it still was created as a separate independent agency. Now, what's interesting also about ATL, and other people don't realize that when they had a referendum in 2019, the voters voted MARTA down for the second time. They had one in 1990, and then they just had another referendum in 2019 that the voters voted MARTA down. But most people don't realize when they had that contract drawn up for 2019, that contract was a separate contract from the 1971 contract. Gwinnett knew, and the commissioners in Gwinnett County did not want to have anything to do with that the 1971 contract, because they knew that it was not written and set up in to benefit them. They knew that the legal framework that they have us forcing the DeKalb County operated under is not fair. So they insisted that they have a separate contract, and even though they got a separate contract, the voters still voted down being part of MARTA. But if you look at that contract that they had, that was proposed in 2019, it was much better than what we currently operate under in DeKalb and Fulton County. And we've been shafted, and our representatives in both in DeKalb County and Fulton County and the city of Atlanta are selling the people short. I'm not going to say they're selling them out; they're selling them short.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate this, breaking this knowledge down. And if we can, and we get some more progress on this, maybe in the near future, let's say next month or the month after, we come back and do another live stream to see what kind of updates that we have for the people. But I really want to start presenting that MARTA Act, start pushing in social media when I go canvassing out in the neighborhoods, instead of just pushing about affordable housing and, how to get attorney help and things of that nature, and the rules. I want to add the MARTA Act to it too.
The MARTA Act covers and governs the MARTA board and the MARTA agency, and it really has all the rules and regulations as to how MARTA is supposed to function. But unless the citizens keep MARTA accountable, they pretty much do whatever they want to do, unless the citizens actually know and read the MARTA Act.
And that's what we have to push. We have to push for that MARTA Act knowledge, the knowledge of MARTA Act. Go ahead and start reading. I'm gonna read it for myself, because like I said, you told me about it. I knew nothing about it before you told me, and once you told me about it, I scammed through it. I still haven't read nowhere near the whole thing. I just scammed through it, and hit certain points just to look over it. And I was just in amazement, because I'm like, man, it's been here all this time, and I'm just not hearing about it.
You actually find any citizen can find a copy of it on the MARTA website, and it's 26 sections. But it's on the MARTA website. The MARTA Act is on the MARTA website, and it's 26 sections. Yeah, and they cover everything from the MARTA board structure to the sales tax to bonds and to contracts and all things of that nature.
Yeah, I downloaded it. Like I said, after you told me about it, I went in there, got on the internet, got online and downloaded it. Yeah. I'm gonna make sure that I make that information available too. And the next time we do a live stream and talking about this, I have the information up for the people.
That sounds good. And whenever you need me or want me to come back to educate and give some more information out about MARTA or update you on the lawsuit, I will be certainly glad to come back and have a discussion about it.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate taking the time out. And like I said again, thank you so much for the fight. We need to join you. We need to join you for ourselves. Every citizen especially in Fulton and DeKalb County, need to be a part of this fight.
If you pay a sales tax, you have an interest in it.
There you go. There you go. And that's we lay back. We do not pay attention to where our dollars go. A lot of us don't even know that we have any rights over the money.
Yeah,
So
every time you buy something in Fulton, DeKalb County, you paying 1 penny, 1% sales tax that goes towards MARTA in most cases. There are some things that exempt from the sales tax, but in most cases, whatever you buy, you're paying a 1% sales tax, and 1% of that goes to pay for the MARTA operation. So you have a right and a voice to stand up and speak out about the MARTA services, the restrooms, and making sure that they give you transit system services that you deserve in your community.
that's right. That's right. That's right. All right, brother. I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. For
Yes, yes, sir, brother Lee. You know I can talk about this all day long, and I don't want to take up all your time, but I'll be glad to come back.
Man, listen, you're not taking up my time. I'm so glad, man. I had a pretty rough day. You know, I done started back training and getting back in shape. So I was out with my uncle. We hit the belt line and got on them bikes. So man, you know, it's been over 2 years since I even rode on the bike. So you know, we on them carbon-based bikes, and woo, I didn't fuel up. So I'm drained, but it's always about the calling, and it's always about justice for us. So I don't care how tired I am. Like I told you, I said, hey, I'm an hour behind, but hey, can we go now? Can we do this live stream now? Because this information need to be out to the people.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, and I look forward to coming back.
All right. Have a good one, brother.
Okay.
Jurisdictions. Thank you. Phew. Thank you. Well received. Thank you. Dr. Ed Williams from the Concerned Citizens for Effective Government.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Ed Williams. I have not spoken to the board in over 2 years since COVID-19 started, but I want to put a face with a name. I'm the person behind the lawsuit against MARTA, and right now I'm kind of disheartened the fact that MARTA is suing me for legal fees when I'm exercising my First Amendment right to petition my government. If you all were actually standing in my shoes, you would not want to be sued by your own government for exercising your First Amendment right to petition your government. That's the most important right we have as citizens of the United States. I take great offense at MARTA suing me for exercising our constitutional right. And that not only is a U.S. constitutional right, it is a Georgia constitutional right to petition the government. Now, let me say two things about my lawsuit. In 1971, we passed a referendum. The citizens, I was 7 years old then, but the citizens 50 years ago passed a referendum. That referendum was supposed to end last year. It was never intended. In fact, in the Georgia Constitution, no contract can be more than 50 years. It is never intended for a government to enslave its people more than 50 years without it coming back to its citizens. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not trying to dissolve MARTA. I don't want to get rid of MARTA. I'm just saying, MARTA, you need to respect your citizens. Fulton and DeKalb County, come back to us and ask us for a vote and what we want to have done. We did not seek to have a diverse board like you all are here, for you all to deny us our rights. This is what you all are doing. You all are denying the citizens their right to be heard and to vote. That is not what the people in the 60s and the 50s marched for. And so I'm asking you to stop hollering at night from suing me for legal fees and for you all to hold a referendum for the people to vote on a new contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.